Mary Tudor was born in February 1516, the only surviving child of King Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, and from the moment of her birth, her life was shaped by dynastic anxiety, religious upheaval, and political violence that would define the English 16th century. Raised as a devout Catholic and initially recognized as heir, Mary's position collapsed when Henry sought to annul his marriage to Catherine, breaking with the Roman Catholic Church and declaring himself supreme head of the Church of England. Mary was declared illegitimate, stripped of her household, separated from her mother, and pressured for years to renounce the Pope's authority. She refused for as long as she could, enduring isolation and psychological pressure that left lasting scars. Under her half-brother, Edward VI, England moved rapidly toward militant Protestantism, and Mary again found herself marginalized and under suspicion. When Edward died in 1553, his Protestant advisors attempted to block Mary's succession by placing Lady Jane Grey on the throne, but Mary rallied popular and noble support, entered London in triumph, and was crowned Queen, the first woman to rule England in her own right. Her accession was widely welcomed, seen as legitimate and lawful, and initially hopeful. Mary inherited a kingdom exhausted by religious change, economic strain, and factional politics, and she believed deeply that England's salvation, both spiritual and political, depended on restoring Catholicism. Her marriage to Philip of Spain was intended to secure a Catholic alliance, but it proved deeply unpopular, fueling fears of foreign domination and sparking Wyatt's rebellion, which Mary crushed decisively, executing the rebels and reluctantly authorizing the execution of Lady Jane Grey. Once secure, Mary moved to reverse the English Reformation, repealing Protestant legislation and restoring papal authority, a process initially carried out through Parliament and law rather than terror. However, her reign is defined by the Marian persecutions, in which nearly 300 Protestants were burned at the stake for heresy between 1555 and 1558. These executions, legally sanctioned and consistent with European norms of the time, were nonetheless unprecedented in scale in England and deeply traumatic for the population. The victims included bishops, preachers, artisans, and ordinary believers, many of whom met death with public defiance that was recorded in Protestant martyrologies, most famously by John Foxe, whose work permanently shaped Mary's reputation. The burnings hardened opposition, failed to restore popular Catholicism, and created enduring images of cruelty that earned Mary the nickname Bloody Mary, a label that would eclipse the complexities of her rule. Beyond religion, Mary faced grave challenges: poor harvests, inflation, outbreaks of disease, and an expensive foreign policy tied to her husband's war with France, which culminated in the loss of Calais, England's last possession on the European mainland, a symbolic blow to national pride. Personally, Mary suffered repeated phantom pregnancies, the heartbreak of childlessness, and declining health, all of which undermined her authority and hopes of securing a Catholic succession. Yet her reign was not without achievement. She reformed the coinage, strengthened naval administration, and laid foundations later used by her successor. When Mary died in November 1558, exhausted and isolated, she left a divided kingdom to her half-sister Elizabeth. Elizabeth swiftly restored Protestantism and allowed the Marian persecutions to define her sister's memory. Over time, Mary I became a cautionary symbol of religious intolerance and failed rule, often judged more harshly than male monarchs who used similar violence. Modern historians increasingly view her as a tragic figure, a woman shaped by trauma, acting with sincere conviction in an age that equated religious unity with political survival. Mary did not rule out of sadism or madness, but out of faith, fear, and a determination to save souls and stabilize her realm. Her legacy remains one of the most contested in English history, suspended between victim and tyrant, piety and persecution, reminding us how deeply belief and power intertwined in the making of modern England.